Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. And if you enjoy the fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic.
What if Naruto learned the future, won Hinata back, and secretly saved everyone from the end of time? Chapter 2, Snafu's Notes. Here it is, the final part of the prologue. Here, Chronica did not visit the Sky Temple after Raiden decaps Shinnok. She instead arrives at the Bone Temple 2 years after the fact. When Sonya Blade retired after 33 years in the military, it was a quiet affair. She wasn't too big on pomp and ceremony. Just a quiet retirement dinner would suffice, the attendees being her subordinates, fellow generals, and Secretary Blake himself. During the dinner, the SF mainframe crashed under mysterious circumstances. Crash was an understatement. The mainframe was nuked. Years of data, weapons research, portal technology, even the Lin Kuei Cyber Initiative notes and Cyber Ninja schematics were gone. Colonel Flag and Kano would not discover this until after Kano was sprung from his prisoner transport some weeks later. SF's server crash was no coincidence. It had been part of Operation Montilier, to deny Kano the coveted SF tech he so desired. That was where Rebecca Carlton came in. Originally a software designer, she turned to hacking after her security program was stolen and she was forced out of the computer tech firm she had been working at, and blacklisted. In retaliation, she turned to hacking. Forged documents, identity stealing, breaking into places that she wasn't supposed to be, that was her job, and she was damn good at it. So when Sonya approached her former sister-in-law with a job to break into SF's mainframe, clean out its research and tactical data and nuke the hard drives, Rebecca didn't see it as a mission. She saw it as a kid on Christmas morning. Of course, Sonya added the caveat that the data should be backed up onto several special laptops. And Rebecca delivered. Now, the entirety of SF's data was on 3 specially built, hardened laptops, each of Becky's design. After Cassie and Jackie were safe back home, Johnny sold his condo and relocated. The lake house was probably compromised, as Flag knew where it was, so he, Sonya and Cassie were laying low in San Francisco. Nightwolf had already moved her people to the New Earth realm, where they had already began to rebuild in a deserted town using Cage's money, and both the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu were in the final stages of its relocation. Jax had a buyer for the farm and sold it, the new homeowners giving him and his family 6 weeks to move out. It was a week after Cassie and Jackie's honorable discharges that Raiden returned. The Sky Temple. The place was still a wreck from where Shinnok and the Revenants had come to play. Originally, Raiden had driven the Shaolin away due to his torture of Shinnok, but after being purged of Shinnok's corruption, the Shaolin returned, and were hard at work cleaning out the debris and making repairs to the temple. The last time Cassie and her team were here, it was during the raid on the temple. Part of her relived that night. The threat of failure and imminent death was real. But the thrill, she lived for that kind of thing. Jax had read a copy of SF's dissertation, as did Hanzo and Kuei, detailing the events that night. Fighting the Revenants on their home turf was bad enough. If he had fought them again, he'd probably would have freaked out again. No one greeted them at the temple's entrance, meaning that Raiden and Fujin were probably inside the Jinsei chamber. The Jinsei chamber. The interior of the Sky Temple showed signs of the climatic battle between Cassandra Cage and Shinnok. Scorch marks from Shinnok's energy blasts, spent pistol shells, the mangled remains of one of said pistols, and blood. Speaking of blood, there was dried blood on a table that went over the edge and pooled into a dry puddle on the ground. Shinnok's blood. The headless corpse was gone, but the manacles that once held his broken body remained. Fujin stood watching Raiden as he floated in the Jinsei. If Raiden looked bad on that night Shinnok returned to the Sky Temple, he looked like he went 12 rounds with Shao Kahn, Lu and Shinnok all at once and lost. That was when Johnny and the others noticed the second person standing alongside Fujin. An elder god, Johnny surmised, as he recognized him in the past. The eldest of the bunch, reminding him of his old science teacher from middle school, dressed in formal robes. You came. Good, Fujin said, noticing Johnny and the others. He gestured to the elder god. This is Lord Nao Amukar, the most senior of elder gods. He is here as their representative. Nao Amukar nodded in greeting. Raiden opened his eyes. Removing himself from the jinsei, he lowered himself to the ground. He looked worn out, tired. But there was a determination in his eyes. You have questions, I am sure, the restored thunder god said. As to my disappearance, an explanation would be nice, Nightwolf said. With the exception of the traitor Cetrian, I have consulted with the elder gods regarding this new crisis, with Lord Amukar as their representative, Raiden began, gesturing to Nao Amukar. There is no way around it, I'm afraid. Kronika's rise is inevitable. I, alongside Fujin, will be no more. However, it is not the end. Johnny shrugged his shoulders. An ending is merely a beginning, only disguised. In a way, Johnny Cage, Raiden confirmed. The elder gods have given me permission to make all of you an offer. One that will for all intents and purposes, will change your lives. Which is? Sonya prodded. Immortality. Sonya Blade, Fujin replied. You, your former spouse, Commander Briggs, and the Grand Masters shall transcend your humanity and become gods. And how does this whole ascension process work? Jax asked. Raiden's plans coincided with our own. So we joined forces to reach a specific goal, Nao Amukar said. In order to create a new god, Raiden continued, an old one must be destroyed. That is what I have been doing. We hunted down one from a realm long since dead, and slew it. You shall become a new breed of immortals. But not to defend Earth realm from Kronika. So why give us the power if you know we can't win? Jax asked. Nao Amukar stepped forward. Even if you agree, you must grow in your powers, your immortality. His hands glowing with a soft blue light, Nao Amukar stretched out his hands, and 7 bodies materialized. Jax's eye twitched, as did Sub-Zero's. The reason being was that Raiden had showed them both the memory of his failed attempt at getting Quan Kai on his side during Shao Kahn's invasion when Quan Kai summoned the Revenants. The way that the female elder god had summoned them was eerily similar to how Quan Kai did it. But that was not the thing that shocked them. No, what shocked them was that the bodies in question were those of their younger selves. Eyes closed, standing straight, hands at their sides. Years of wear and tear, gone. No, these were Raiden's chosen in their prime. For Johnny, the chest tattoo was gone, as he was from the waist up. Jax was lacking his bionic implants, his real arms restored. Sub-Zero's eye scar was absent from his face, now clean-shaven. The last person was a 7-foot being made completely of fire. Kronika's powers, as you already know, is manipulation of time, the elder god explained. What makes her especially dangerous is that she can rewind time and kill your past self. Yeah, Johnny said, if youngest dies, then not only we cease to exist, but our kids as well. It's a 2-for-1. In a manner of speaking, yes. To counter that we have brought forth your younger selves from various points in history. The elder god gestured to the younger counterparts. Shao Kahn empowered Sindel by transferring Shang Tsung's soul, and those of his victims, into Sindel. The process is similar. We shall transfer your souls and that of the old god into your younger bodies. There, the souls shall merge and join as one. Your old body shall cease to be, but you will be reborn, in a sense. Reborn a god, Raiden said. However, killing the old god is not enough for the process. Fujin and I will sacrifice our immortality and powers. He turned to Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade. Fujin and I both chose you are our successors. Sonya Blade, you shall succeed me as goddess of thunder, whereas Johnny Cage will take Fujin's place as god of wind. Sonya looked as if she had been gut-punched, her ex's expression matching hers. Goddess of thunder, me, yes, Raiden confirmed. We have not seen eye to eye on many things, Sonya Blade. But when Earth Realm was in danger, you rose to defend it. You have proven yourself worthy as my successor. What about our kids? Jax asked, quickly getting over his gaffe. That is where Blaze comes in, Nao Amukar said. The original plan was for Dagon and Tavan to fight Blaze, with the winner getting the powers of a god. But since Tavan is dead and no one doesn't want to see Dagon go after Blaze, his power will be split among Cassandra Cage and the others. Your children shall become demigods. However, in order for them to fully harness the change, Cassandra Cage and her team will de-age to that of children, allowing Blaze's powers to fully mature within their bodies. There's a catch, is it? Nightwolf asked. How perceptive of you, Black Sky, Nao Amukar replied. When Shinnok claimed the souls of Liu Kang and the others, he purged everything that was good in their souls, leaving only the darkness. The elder gods and I have managed to gather the good halves of Liu Kang, Katana, Jade and Kung Lao and flung them across time and space. The alternative Earth realm where Master Yao is from is where you will find them, reincarnated, their souls reborn into living beings. You will find them, and train them, Fujin said. Once Liu Kang and the other revenants find out what we have done, they will come for them. They must be prepared. The revenants will come for their souls, to combine with their own. We understand your hesitation, Raiden said. Please, take some time out and talk it among yourselves. Outside, Johnny was silent as Sonya and the others spoke among themselves. He was looking out into the courtyard. Cassie and Team SF were in a corner, speaking in hushed whispers. Johnny turned to Sonya, who called him by his name. Yeah, what do you think about this? Sonya asked. What do I think? Johnny sighed as he took off his shades. It's a no-brainer. We take the deal. Look, I don't like to cut and run, but we got no other choice. Chronica will come, and she will bring the pain. Shinnok, Cetrion, the Revenants, who knows what else, and all of you know that Cassie and I are numero uno on that hit list due to the both of us kicking Shinnok's teeth in. I'm sensing a but in your monologue, Jax snorted. But Johnny drew out the word. This is more than just an offer to become more than human. It's a second chance for all of us. I don't see this as an end of an era. This can be our beginning. He pointed to Sonya. I got a second chance with her, and Sonya got a second chance with Cassie. We gotta look at the bigger picture here. Jax found himself staring down Johnny's blue eyes. You once said that your biggest regret was not being there for Jackie in her early years. Well, now the smirk was back. You got a prime chance to make it up to her. We haven't seen eye to eye on many things, Jax. You want to be a good dad to Jackie. She told me that she didn't sign up because she wanted to redeem you. She did it because she wanted you to be proud of her. She looked up to you growing up, and wanted to be like you. I am proud of her, Jax defended. Johnny snorted in derision. The broken jaw you gave me says otherwise. Chronica will come for us. That's inevitable. Raiden and Fujin are giving us a chance to even the playing field. But more than that, it's a second chance for all of us. To make things right. To repair bridges long since burned. Why should we accept this offer? Hanzo asked. Some people see this as a second chance. You can look at it as redemption. Both you and Kuei Liang, Johnny replied. Second, your eyes gave you away. Our eyes, Sub-Zero repeated. I recognize that look anywhere. Jax and Sonya both have it as well. You're hungry, chomping at the bit to prove yourself, to get that chance. I've seen it in every rising starlet in Hollywood. Jax and Sonya saw it in Cassie and Jackie, and you two got it as well. He retrieved his shades and slid them back on. Think of this as your comeback. And trust me when I say this, because I've been there. You can't fake a comeback. Dad. Jax turned around. Jackie and the others were approaching. We've decided. We're gonna do it, Jackie said. Going through puberty again is gonna, but I want this chance. Jax nodded. What say you, Kung Jin? Nightwolf asked. The Shaolin archer shrugged his shoulders. I got no family here. They've all disowned me. I can use the fresh start. The Shirai Ryu are my family now, Takeda said. Well, aside from you guys. Sonya turned to Cassie. Cassandra. Cassie was silent. Then, she leveled her gaze onto her mother and began to speak. I gave up my daughter's childhood to make her world safe. That was the right thing to do. Right up a few weeks ago when she ran away. Now, we're at the end of the world, relying on the kindness of a barbarian. Sonya looked at her ex-husband, eyes widened. Team SF, Nightwolf, Jax, Hanzo and Kue looked on, their attention on Cassie as she continued to speak, reciting what Sonya had told her father verbatim that night on Kotal Khan's ship. Who knows what she's seen on Shang Tsung's island? What kind of torture they've inflicted on her? All I know for certain is if we fail, if we don't save her, then I gave up all those years for nothing. I never knew my own daughter, and she never knew how much her mother cares. Silence. Then, you said that, Jax said, knowing full well of the frayed relationship between Sonya and Cassie. She did. Dad told me after I signed on with SF, Cassie confirmed. Dad's right. We all deserve a second chance. Besides, who else can say they can pass physically for 20 when they turn 40? So we're in agreement, then. Are we really going to do this? Nightwolf asked. Looks that way, Jax said. So we know that Johnny and Sonya got wind and lightning. What about the rest of us? You, Jackson Briggs, shall become god of Earth. Raiden. He stood at the entrance to the temple, having caught the end of their little group meeting. The Thunder God strode out into the opening. Both Hanzo Hasashi and Kue Liang shall become gods of Hellfire and Ice respectively. Nightwolf shall become the goddess of light. He gestured to Cassie and her team. Cassandra Cage and her team shall also obtain the power of the elements. Which elements is unclear. Well, that's good to know, Jin said. Least we won't be left out. So, when do we begin? Johnny asked. First, you must settle your affairs. Then return here, Raiden said. You will be staying here until it is time to leave Earth Realm. To Jax, he said, the Elder Gods will de-age your wife, but she must be brought here for her own protection. Jax nodded. Thank you, Raiden. Raiden nodded. Good. Your ascension will take place in 3 days. More than enough time for all of you to settle your affairs. The Thunder God turned on his heels and walked back into the Sky Temple. Good thing I sold the farm already, Jax said. I must oversee the final preparations for my clan, Scorpion said. I will send them on ahead to the New Earth Realm. Then, I shall return here. I will do the same with my men, Sub-Zero said. Once the process is finished, you will stay here for a year and learn your powers, Raiden said. Then, you will be sent on your way. He turned and walked back into the temple. Well, Johnny said, breaking the silence, guess the old life we once knew is now officially over. That's stating the obvious, Cage, Jax said. Least there's nothing to hold us here. Makes the relocation much easier. Johnny sighed. Some more than others. Good thing I sent Becky on ahead to square things away. He chuckled softly. Can't believe this is our last night as mortals. I played a god once, but this is the real deal. Overwhelming, isn't it? Nightwolf asked. A lot more when Raiden asked me to become his champion, Johnny said as Sonia fished out her PDA and made a portal appear. See you guys in 3 days. The Cage family entered the portal, which closed behind Cassie. The Sky Temple. 1 week later. It sounded so easy on paper, with the way Raiden, Fujin and the elder god Nao Amukar had explained it. Simply transfer the soul of your older self into your younger body, now imbued with the immortality and powers of the old god. Or in Johnny and Sonia's case, the immortality and powers of Raiden and Fujin. It was necessary for the procedure for it to go as it did. As immortals, you will exist outside of normal time and space, Raiden had explained. By fusing your souls with those of your younger counterparts and imbuing them with the power of gods, it eliminates the chance of Kronika killing you by eliminating your younger selves. It was also necessary for the champions to be rendered unconscious for the ritual, as ripping one's soul out from one's body was extremely painful. No wonder Shang Tsung liked to finish off his opponents in such a manner. Once the process is complete, I will place all of you in a meditative sleep to allow your bodies not only to recover, but to get used to your new bodies and minds, Raiden had told them. Your bodies will still be the same, but you will be stronger, your minds sharper, more enlightened. You will remain here for a year. By that time, your children shall de-age. When that happens, it shall be time for you to leave. Johnny Cage was the last of the new gods to awaken. And he felt like shit. He was no stranger to pain, sure. But it felt like he went the distance with Sindel, Jax and Shinnok in rapid succession. He assumed a seated position, from the waist up, and realized that he was in one of the numerous bedchambers reserved for guests inside the Sky Temple. Oh, great, he muttered. An unknown ceiling. At least the pain had rapidly reduced to an ache. Soon, it would be gone. His vision began to focus as he sat up in the bed. It focused a lot faster than it was when he was a human. He felt different. His breathing was more relaxed. His senses were much clearer and sharper, including his vision. He felt stronger, even more so when he fought Shinnok in his prime. Looking around, he saw that he was in one of several bedchambers reserved for guests inside the Sky Temple. And judging by the open duffel bag that was on the floor, it was one shared with Sonia. First things first, he needed a bath and a shave. He had finished his bath and was dressing himself when he stopped and looked at his reflection in the mirror. He was from the waist up, wearing only his khaki pants. The chest tattoo bearing his name was gone. He had gotten that after getting drunk one night following the release of Ninja Mime. Johnny was getting sick of it anyway. But what stood out as he looked at his reflection in the mirror were his eyes. Instead of the older, mature, 50-something Cage, Johnny found himself looking at himself back when he was 21. Aside from the obvious de-aging, there were 2 other things that stood out. The first thing were his eyes. The irises, once blue as the ocean, were now a stormy gray. For a moment, they glowed with energy before vanishing. The second thing that stood out were the tattoos. Sleeve tattoos with a dragon motif starting from the wrist to his shoulders. The tattoos also went around both flanks and both legs, i.e., the tattoos seen on Fire God Liu Kang. Like his eyes, they glowed momentarily before vanishing. You look better without the chest tattoo. Sonia. Johnny turned to his right. She was standing in the doorway, years of age, wear and tear now gone. She looked to be about 18. She had been an idealist at the time when she joined the military as a grunt. She was dressed in her old SF uniform, sans the jacket with the rank, gray-blue tank top and fatigue shorts, and her custom-made boots. But what stood out was her eyes. Originally, Sonia's baby blues were nothing special, the color of hardened sapphire. Eyes that were a lot like his. They could look into your soul with their gaze. Only Sonia's orbs were not electric blue, but a shade of violet. And Johnny swore he saw a crackle of purple electricity on her fingertips. And there were the same glowing dragon tattoos on her arms, flank and legs, purple in color before fading like Johnny's tattoos. I like the ones you got, Johnny said. According to Nightwolf, they're power limiters, Sonia explained. They allow us to blend in. You're the last to wake up. She stepped into the room. How do you feel? Johnny grinned. Like $1,000,000. Cassie and the others. Demigods. All 4 of them. The same thing Raiden and Fujin did to the both of us they did to Cassie and the others. Vera's been de-aged as well. Gonna have to do the same to Becky, Johnny said. His head. Hang on. I wanna try something. He raised his hand, palm facing upward. Sonia had seen him do this before, summoning the green energy that was a signature characteristic of his warrior bloodline. But the difference was more than obvious. A ball of energy blossomed into Johnny's hand, the size of an apple. But instead of the radiant green Sonia had grown accustomed to, the color was a stormy grayish blue. Sonia and Johnny both felt the wind radiating from the energy ball. Johnny banished the energy ball. Oh. That was awesome, he said. Show off, Sonia snarked. We got a meeting inside the Jinsei chamber. Raiden wants everybody. Must be important, Johnny said as he slipped the Henley over his head and chest. Opting for a pair of tennis shoes, Johnny slipped them on, tied them up and exited the room. Cassie got an email from Blake, Sonia said. Flag's dead. SF's been disbanded. She sighed. It was worse than I thought. Kano had half of SF infiltrated. Damn, Johnny said. Kano wasn't taking any chances with you. I know. It's one of the reasons why I opted to live in a smaller residence on base rather than the base commander's residence. Flag didn't know that, thankfully. Blake had to call in the big guns, but not before Kano gutted Flag. Sonia smirked. Apparently, despite Flag being able to spring him out of jail, Kano was not happy with the fact that the SF mainframe was nuked. Sonia had been gifted with a customized hardened laptop from her former sister-in-law. The hardened laptop that Becky had gifted her couldn't be traced and even around the grounds of the Sky Temple. Which was fortunate for Cassie, as she was still able to get a good signal, thus keeping her connected to the outside world. But to Cassie, spending 2 years under protective confinement at the Sky Temple was going to suck. But Cassie understood why it was necessary. She herself knew just how dangerous Kano can be and would lash out if he had concrete proof where the Cage and Briggs families were hiding. So after Sonia had thanked Blake for the information, she closed her email account and went dark. Sorry about SF, Johnny apologized. You put in the years to make it what it was. Rounding the corner, the reconciled couple ran into their daughter. Cassie Cage was exiting the bedchamber she shared with Jackie. Like her parents, she was wearing casual attire. Pulling her hair back, she tied it into a bun. Then, she looked up and saw her parents. Johnny noticed that Cassie's eyes matched those of her mother's. This is weird, Cassie said. You look so young. To Sonia, she said, we could pass as sisters. Sonia couldn't help but to smirk. Try seeing it from our end. Always wanted a sister, but got a brother instead. Guess Uncle Daniel's not the type to trade style tips and dish on boys, huh? Sonia smiled sadly as she remembered her long-deceased twin brother. No, but you would have liked him, Cass. She changed the subject. How are you feeling? The Cage demi-goddess shrugged her shoulders as she trotted behind her parents. I got nothing. Don't feel different. Give it some time, Sonia said. Raiden's called for a meeting at the Jinsei chamber. I know, Cassie said. Jackie told me. I was gonna let you guys know. She snorted in derision. Earthrealm's champion for 2 years. Both you and the great Kung Lao lasted for a generation. It's not as glamorous as you may think, Johnny said. So what's the plan once we relocate? Cassie asked. You're gonna to back into acting. The newly christened god of wind shook his head. Nah, I'm done with acting, pumpkin. He gestured to Sonya. Knowing your mother, she's gonna rejoin the military a second time. I may surprise you, Johnny. Might go and get that marine biology degree. Johnny scoffed. Sure. Keep lying to yourself, Miss Military. As Cassie was walking behind her parents, Cassie couldn't help but to smile. In spite of Kronika's inevitable return and their flight from Earth Realm in 2 years, it was good to see them talking again. The Jinsei Chamber. Raiden's champions, once mortal men and women, now gods, began to gather inside the Jinsei Chamber. Nightwolf was accompanied by the 2 Grand Masters, Hanzo Hasashi and Kue Liang, while Jackie brought her teammates, Takeda and Kung Jin. Finally, Jax accompanied Vera Briggs, now aged to a 20-year-old woman. And finally, the Cage family were the last to arrive. Raiden and Fujin were waiting for them, the Jinsei glowing its radiant hue. While Fujin had a look of grim acceptance in regards to his inevitable fate, Raiden had a look that Johnny and Sonya instantly recognized. The look of utter and total failure. Over 20 years ago, Raiden had the same look on his face when he buried Liu Kang. Now, it was back. Raiden's head was bowed, his conical straw hat in his hands. He didn't need to know when his champions have arrived. He already knew. For several days, Raiden had secluded himself within the Jinsei Chamber, barring anyone from entering. Until now, at long last, I finally see the pattern, the former Thunder God said without preamble. A pattern, yet one without purpose. When I transferred my godly essence to Sonya Blade, it unlocked memories. Memories not only from this timeline, but also those that came before. Wait, timelines, Cassie clarified, as in plural. Yes, Cassandra. On previous occasions, Kronika has reset the timeline. Each time she reset the timeline, it was to perfect her plan. Sub-Zero frowned. Resetting the timeline so many times does not bode well for one's sanity. Even for a god. To say she's a control freak is an understatement, Johnny added. Each timeline is different, Raiden continued as he slowly walked around the chamber, slowly connecting the dots, yet some aspects are the same, while others are different. But the end result is the same. Liu Kang and I would eventually come to blows, ending in his death. From the sound of things, it happened each time, Hanzo noted. Raiden nodded. Why do that? Sub-Zero asked. It makes no sense. Unless you're looking in the wrong place, Johnny said. When all eyes turned to him, the former actor continued. I grew up with a cop for a dad. He was a total asshole, but he liked both Cass and Sonya. Growing up, he always told my sister and me, if there's something that doesn't make any sense, then look in between the lines. What are you getting at, Uncle Johnny? Jackie asked. Because out of everyone here, Liu is the strongest out of all of us, Sonya continued, catching on. If Raiden did to Liu what he had done to us, then his and Raiden's combined power could threaten Kronika's scheme. Jax finally caught on. Only problem is that Liu is playing for Team Netherrealm. And I've been down that road myself. What better way to neutralize an enemy than to make them your ally? Now you understand the totality of my failure, Raiden said. But there is more. Fujin stepped forward. Raiden, is it? Raiden silenced Fujin. I am aware, Fujin. But they must know. For the next 2 hours, Raiden laid it all out. His future self, having lost to Shao Kahn, had sent back the visions detailing, he must win, another of Kronika's schemes. He told them of their lives before Armageddon, of Johnny's death during the Outworld invasion of Earth Realm, and resurrection. Of the rise of the Deadly Alliance, resulting in Liu Kang's death, along with the majority of Raiden's champions. He told them of Onaga, the Dragon King, who revived and enslaved them to his will. It had been Liu's spirit that had freed them. And finally, he told them of Armageddon, in which Shao Kahn had won the prize, thus leading Raiden to do what he had did. His tale finished, Raiden walked out of the Jinsei chamber. Later, she found him later outside in the Sky Temple's courtyards. Ever since Raiden's confession, everyone dispersed, going back to doing that they were doing. But not him. He decided to go out and think. You're brooding again. The big man grunted as he pulled out a cigar and lit it. Taking a puff, he replied to the woman, brooding. Nah, that's Hanzo's expertise. Got a lot on my mind, Sonya. Don't we all? Sonya said as she stood beside Jax. Never expected to see you and Cage get back together, Jax noted. Sonya chuckled. He's probably the only guy who can stand me aside from you. Never expected to see you and Cage get back together, Jax noted. Sonya chuckled. He's probably the only guy who can stand me aside from you. A pause. He didn't fight the divorce. I gave up Cassie's childhood to keep her safe. Johnny sacrificed our marriage to ensure I was able to keep Earth Realm safe without any distractions. Jax took another puff. I always thought he was a fool. But all that changed when Cassie came along. He went from being shallow to a pretty decent dad. He was always selfless, Jax. This is the same guy who took a killshot from Shinnok and came out of it unharmed. I just didn't know how selfless he truly was when he told me that. When Cassie joined the military, he supported her in her career. Least he didn't push her into becoming an actress, Jax said. After another puff, he dropped the bomb on Sonya. I'm gonna re-enlist. Sonya's jaw dropped. Wait, what? I'm going back in the military once things are squared away in the New Earth Realm, Jax confirmed. Don't get me wrong, Sonya. I'm still messed up over my time in the Netherrealm, but Vera helped me cope. Becoming a god has purged the trauma from my mind altogether. I'm still scared, Sonya, but I realize that what scares me more is not being able to do something about it. And I miss being in the game. So we join up, and work up the ranks as before, Sonya said. Reform SF. Only we do it right. We gotta be prepared for when Chronica comes. All of us. Well said, Briggs. Jax and Sonya spun around. Johnny approached them. Congrats on your comeback, by the way. You were listening in? Jax asked, annoyed. I was looking for her, Johnny defended, looking at Sonya. There's some information regarding Operation Montpellier that I need to discuss with all of you over dinner. It was more than just a dinner. It was something akin to a war council meeting. Both Raiden and Fujin were absent, having locked themselves away in seclusion until the following morning, where they will instruct the exiled gods on how to use their powers. It was a feast worthy for a Shaolin. Steamed vegetables, sliced pieces of fruit, steamed buns, smoked fish and dried slices of meat. Which wasn't surprising, as the food was cooked by the White Lotus who tended the grounds. The exiled gods and Team SF sat at the table, consuming the food. All the while, Johnny pitched his idea to his counterparts. No, Kue. I know it sounds crazy, but I said no, Cage. You're talking about using Cyber Lin Kuei technology to line your pockets. Not entirely, Johnny admitted. Any soldier can tell you that a war needs three things: soldiers, food, and money. And what I'm asking is not the tech to create a legion of Roboninjas, but to make things better for all of us. Hard, icy blue eyes stared down Johnny as the god of ice considered his options. Explain yourself. And it had better be good. Johnny nodded. He pulled out a folded sheet of paper and placed it on the table. Before I got into acting full-time, I was putting myself through college working as a stuntman. I got a degree in business administration with the intention of working as a financial analyst. By the time I got the diploma, however, I was making more money doing film than I ever could in the private sector. But that didn't stop me from making some investments on the side, hence, the reason why our war chest is so damn big. But the money is finite. We need revenue coming in for this to work. And how does this plan incorporate SF tech with that from the Lin Kuei? Jax asked. When Sonia, Nightwolf, and I visited the New Earth realm, we found ourselves at least 18 years in the past, Johnny explained. I used some of the cash to buy out an electronics and software firm and placed Becky in charge, albeit from the shadows. This software firm will be the basis of Cage Incorporated. Hanzo snorted. How original. Johnny ignored the barb. Sonia and Jax are going back to the military. Both you and Kuei have your clans to look after. And Nightwolf has the Madoka to care for. We need cash to ensure all goals are met. Sonia and the others had to admit that it was a pretty good plan, despite the insanity of it. Johnny would reinvent himself as a hotshot upstart in the business world, while the others were doing their own thing. Cage Incorporated would be owned under a trust, consisting of the exiled gods themselves. Cage Incorporated would secretly fund the Shirai Ryu and the Lin Kuei. And SF, once it was reformed under Jax and Sonia. And it would help the Madoka, the Shirai Ryu, the Lin Kuei, Special Forces, the Madoka and myself. In a way, we're all connected, Johnny explained. Either we fight together or die alone. He looked up and noticed a spider weaving a web. We're a lot like the spider's web in a way. Rip a strand here and there, the web holds. Blow a hole in it, and the web falls apart. As to the tech, we're ahead of everyone in that Earth realm by at least 20 years when it comes to that. But we gotta take this slow, and do things the right way. The more dangerous tech we'll keep locked away. What about Lu and the others? Kuei asked in regards to the reincarnated combatants. I spoke with Master Yao when Johnny, Sonia and I were visiting him at Kamar Taj, Nightwolf replied. They are in the New Earth realm all right. But as children, about 3 years old. She took a pull of her glass of water. There is more to the prophecy. I was only privy to this shortly after I woke up. Nao Amukar told me, which is, Kronika's invasion of the New Earth realm. It was inevitable either way. It started out as the revenant versions of Liu Kang, Katana, Kung Lao and Jade tracking down their reincarnated counterparts, kill them, and drain their souls, absorbing them back into their own bodies. By that time, Kronika will see the New Earth realm as a threat, and will use her forces to merge both Earths together and launch a full-scale invasion. That's where we come in, I take it, Hanzo surmised. Aside from us taking the fight to Kronika, we give the reincarnated combatants a fighting chance, the goddess of light explained. We take them in, and raise them as if they were our own children. Fortunately, time and space move differently there than it does here. We'll spend 2 years here, but in the New Earth realm, hours will merely pass. Any idea as to where they are? Cassie asked. Yao is scouring the New Earth realm for their whereabouts. He should have something for us once we arrive. Sorry, Cass, but it's the best we got for the moment. Hope one of them is in San Francisco, Johnny said. Why the change, Dad? Cassie asked. Johnny sighed. I've given over 30 years of my life to Hollywood. It had its moments, sure, but enough is enough. Sure it's not because the studio wanted you to make another ninja mime movie. Sonia ribbed. Johnny made a face. Europeans are weird, and this is coming from the guy descended from a Mediterranean warrior cult. No. Enough was enough. The table erupted in laughter. 2 years passed. For 2 years, the new gods made the Sky Temple their home as they learned how to control and get used to their powers and their immortality. What Raiden and Fujin had shown to them over the years was just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. If Raiden was hard on his champions in the past, then he was a total slave driver when it came to teaching them the ropes of their immortality and their powers. Each shared the same attributes. The ability to heal, for one, be it themselves or anyone else. Second, was the complete knowledge of combat. Each of the gods became specialists in their field. Raiden, knowing all 750 variants of jujitsu was a drop in the bucket compared to the totality of what he knew. Hanzo's combat expertise centered around ninjutsu. His Hellfire abilities had also increased 100-fold. Out of the exiled gods, he and Kuei Liang had it the easiest when it came to controlling his powers. As a master swordsman, Hanzo's interest in Japanese swordplay increased, hence his mastery in shinjutsu and kenjutsu. Ironically enough, Kuei Liang's combat background was in jujitsu, incorporating it into the Lin Kuei combat style, along with Kempo. Not even with the Dragon Medallion was Sub-Zero this powerful when it came to his cryomancy powers. Kuei was something of an eclectic. He was known for creating ice swords and using them as weapons. Now, he was using warhammers and battle axes made of razor-sharp ice. In a surprising twist, Fujin knew the Seidan combat style, of which was passed down to Johnny. He only knew a smidgen of the style, as Hotaru didn't trust him enough to reveal Sato's secrets. Only enough to help him control his bloodline's powers. Aside from the Seidan style, Johnny's main area of expertise was karate, of which his godhood allowed access to all styles. He also took his aerokinesis to new levels not even Fujin could imagine, thanks in part to his warrior bloodline. Jax Briggs was a grappler, and he had the knowledge of close-quarters combat at his fingertips. Mixed martial arts, and some traditional martial arts and various grappling styles like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Pankration was his forte, along with boxing and kickboxing. He was also bulletproof, as his body's density hardened, yet looked normal. Cassie discovered this when she unloaded a full clip into Jax's chest, the bullets bouncing harmlessly off his chest. That and Tremor wishes he could do the things Jax can do with his telekinesis. As the Johnny and the other gods found out, Nightwolf can fight. When she wasn't training Team SF in Johnny's stead, she was mastering her own powers. As the goddess of light, both her sorcery and spirit powers increased. She was also something of a weapons specialist, mastering Silat and Eskrima, both fighting styles known for using weapons alongside their hand-to-hand combat style. She also had no qualms about using firearms, mainly lever-action shotguns. Finally, there was Sonya. Raiden had been a hard taskmaster, but Sonya rose to the challenge. The violet eyes and matching lightning was the end result of what remained of the blood code bonding to her godlike essence. Raiden also taught her Bojutsu, a weapon style that Sonya turned out to be a natural in. Only difference was that Sonya's weapon was a bit more practical, a simple metal staff. Sonya also picked up the various styles of Taekwondo and both Thai and Burmese kickboxing. There was a secondary purpose as to why they spent the 2 years at the Sky Temple. By merging with their younger forms, technically, the exiled gods had ceased to exist. However, as the Sky Temple was outside of space and time, yet situated in Earth realm, Cassie and Jackie were still alive. Had they stepped 1 foot out of the Sky Temple, they would cease to exist. But, despite the 2 years of relative peace when it came to their training, all good things must come to an end. First, Cetrion made her move and slaughtered the elder gods on Kronika's orders. Second, was that Jaraz has resurfaced, and has no doubt reported to Kronika as to what had happened. They found out about Jaraz when an underwater salvage crew was slaughtered when they pulled him out of the depths of the Pacific. But it was when Team SF de-aged from adults to 5-year-olds overnight, with Cassie's eyes going as violet as her mother's own, was 0 day nearly upon them. It was time for the exiled gods and their families to leave Earth realm forever. It was time for Raiden and Fujin to die. Elsewhere, at the same time, she stood before the hourglass, a massive construction of crystal that contained the sands of time, the source of her power. She was the keeper of time, the guide to the realms, destinies. And unknown to but a few people, the mother of Shinnok and Cetrion. And in the years since Shinnok was reduced to a living head, Kronika has not been very happy. Kronika had not been happy for the past several decades. Raiden had undid her work, her perfection when he resetted the timeline. Armageddon and Shao Kahn winning the ultimate prize was all part of her plan. She would had preferred it that Shinnok would had taken the prize, but the end results did leave her satisfied. All threats to her design were eliminated, save for Katana, who would go on to kill Shao Kahn, and the balance would be restored. But Raiden ruined it all. Icy blue eyes watched with disdain as the spawn of Cage fought and took down not only the undead Princess Katana and her mother, but also Devora and then, Shinnok's corrupted form, her inherited bloodline protecting her from Shinnok's energy attacks as it had done for her father many years ago. It was clear to the mother of Shinnok and Cetrion that Jairus had failed in his task in assassinating both Johnny Cage and his former spouse. Otherwise, she would not be re-watching Shinnok's defeat at the hands of Cassandra Cage yet again. Kronika frowned. She had a particular hatred for the Cage family, due in part to what she and Cetrion assumed to be sheer dumb luck on their side. Kronika had seen what Cassandra Cage would become and what she would do, and had taken steps to stop her from coming into being. It was more than obvious that Jairus had failed in his task in killing Cassandra's parents. The intervention of Grey Cloud's niece was more than obvious. Behind the combined might of Liu Kang and Raiden, it was the powers of Johnny Cage's warrior bloodline that also made Kronika concerned. Those fears were made real with the birth of Cassie Cage. The Madokan sorceress was also a threat that Kronika attempted to eliminate. The first time was during the Netherrealm War, in which she sicked Jairus after her. Nightwolf responded by luring the time golem inside an abandoned mine, rigged with explosives, and trapped him inside. When Shinnok was released from his amulet, Kronika and Cetrion had hoped that he would be able to finally eliminate the Cage family once and for all. Their hopes were dashed when Cassie rescued her father and defeated Shinnok. "You should had let me kill them, mother." Cetrion. Kronika didn't turn around, but was aware of the presence of her daughter, having returned from her deadly visit to the Elder Gods. As to them that she spoke of Cassandra Cage and her team. "We had Cassandra Cage and her team in our power, yet you placed your hopes on Kotal Khan finishing them off," Cetrion continued. "I should have been there at the Sky Temple. My intervention would have turned the tide in our favor." Kronika turned around. "You forget yourself, daughter." The female elder god bowed her head. "Forgive me, mother. I spoke out of turn." "Nothing to forgive, daughter," the immortal timekeeper replied. "I too share your concerns regarding Raiden and his champions. Raiden's meddling with my timeline and how he treated your brother has forced my hand." Heavy footsteps echoed outside. A soaking wet Jairus stomped into the chamber. "Lady Kronika." Jairus took a knee. "Forgive me. I was unsuccessful in my task." "I know, dear Jairus," Kronika said in a sympathetic tone. "The intervention of Black Sky was something I did not take into account. All is forgiven. I will not fail again, Lady Kronika," Jairus said. "Command me, and I will enforce your will." "I would, but Raiden's champions have disappeared," Kronika replied. "Prior to the months following Shinnok's defeat, they have all but vanished. It as if they did not exist." "How is that possible?" Jairus growled. "With Raiden and his champions, anything is possible," Cetrion said. "That is what makes them dangerous. Even without Liu Kang, Raiden is still a threat," Kronika said. She took a deep breath. "I have no other choice. Mother." "Lady Kronika." Kronika looked at her daughter and enforcer. "The two of you shall wait here. I must speak with the newly christened Emperor and Empress of the Netherrealm alone." She raised her hands and vanished in a twister of golden sand. Morning at the Sky Temple. Inside the bedchamber shared by Johnny and Sonia, it was the latter who woke up to an empty bed. His side was still warm, which meant that he had woken up moments before she did. Today was the day. 0 day was 3 days away, which meant that they had to be gone today. Johnny had become more somber. Even more so when they divorced. Sonia understood why. He believed that despite everything they had done, they had failed. They knew that Raiden and Fujin gave their powers up for them, and were heading towards certain death. The former gods made their peace with it. Johnny couldn't let it go. The former general of SF sat up and stretched, her bust jiggling, as she slept. She would go and find Johnny, but not before a quick wash up and a change of clothes. Outside, the sun rose over the horizon. In the 2 years since his ascension, Johnny Cage would rise at dawn to watch the sun rise. But this sunrise was different. This was the last sunrise he would see in Earth Realm. Johnny didn't feel nervous, or trembling with anticipation. He just felt sad. He didn't move when a pair of arms wrapped around his torso and a warm body pressed up against his. He knew who it was. Aside from her touch alone, her presence was calming to him. You saved lives, Johnny. Operation Montilier saved lives, Sonia reassured him. Johnny sighed. You call this a victory? More like one of the Pyrrhic variety. I know. You're not a true leader unless you've lost. Trust me, I know. But you saved 473 lives. I didn't do it alone. You and Nightwolf helped, but you started the fire. You kept it going. You deserve most of the credit. Johnny chuckled mirthlessly. Bet you that Jax and the 2 Grandmasters believe that I'm going to hold it over their heads for a long time. Would you? Had it been the old me, I just might. Johnny gently undid Sonia's embrace and turned around. I couldn't have done this without you, regardless what you may think. And now, I need you more than ever. He dug into his pocket and pulled out a small item. Holding it in the palm of his hand, he allowed Sonia to take a good look at it. Her violet eyes widened as she recognized the item in her lover's hand. I've been meaning to give this back to you, Johnny said, trying to get back to normal. It's yours, if you still want it. Always has. But there is a catch should you choose to accept this back. We have to work together, more than ever. You want to find that balance between family and work, just ask me. But this, it's all or nothing. Sonia looked at the item in Johnny's hand and picked it up. A golden band, with a row of 5 diamonds. Sonia recognized the item, as she chose the ring herself when Johnny proposed. Neither wanted a kid out of wedlock. Adoption was out of the question. So they chose marriage. They fell in love, then out of love, and now we're back in love again. What say you, Sonia? Johnny asked. Ready for round 2 as Mrs. Blade. Sonia took a moment to weigh her options. Then, she made her choice. Just to be clear, any ring I step into, it's mine. That includes the wedding ring. But, I'm willing to meet you halfway, Johnny. That's all I ask, babe. Ahem. Johnny and Sonia turned their heads. Jax stood before them, the entrance to the Sky Temple at his back. Guys, it's time. Both Johnny and Sonia nodded and walked back to the temple entrance. Sonia continued on, but Jax stopped Johnny with a hand to the shoulder. Better treat her right, Cage, or else you'll be dealing with me, Jax threatened. Johnny brushed his hand, and the threat, aside. I always do, Jax. It was a bittersweet moment as Raiden and Fujin watched as the new gods and their families gather inside the Jinsei chamber. They knew that this day would come. But with sadness, comes hope. Hope that their sacrifice would not be one made in vain. They were packed light, their most belongings in several sports bags and several duffel bags. They even carried copies of the Shaolin archives, of which Nightwolf was transporting by means of her mystic arts. They would be split among the new gods once they settled down in the new Earth realm. Johnny, Jax and Sonia entered the Jinsei chamber. Jax walked over to his family and embraced Vera. Sonia walked over to Cassie and gave her daughter a reassuring pat on the head. Johnny exchanged nods with Sub-Zero, Scorpion and Nightwolf before walking over to Raiden and Fujin. Raiden. Fujin. Johnny greeted in a calm tone. Lord Cage. Lady Blade. Fujin greeted. Seriously, I can't get used to that, Johnny said. I feel like I don't deserve the title. You earned the title, Lord Cage, Fujin said. Your actions saved the lives of your fellow champions. Johnny's shoulders slumped. Not all, Fujin. Fujin smiled sadly. I know. I miss them too. The god of wind turned to Raiden. I guess. You knew, Raiden. You knew it would end this way. Raiden's smile matched that of Fujin's own. I did not have a clue, Johnny. Johnny swallowed the lump in his throat. I wish I could have been a better champion for you. You took the position of champion, knowing full well of the risks, Raiden replied. He placed one hand on Johnny's shoulder. When I first met you on Shang Tsung's island all those years ago, I told Liu Kang that underneath the ego and self-shallowness lies a hero, only that you did not know it. You were a hero, Johnny Cage. You risked your life on many occasions and demanded nothing in return. You don't have to stay here. Both of you. You can come with us, urged the former actor. Sadly, we cannot, Raiden replied. Fujin and I will not abandon the Jinsei. Our lives are bound to Earth Realm. You know I had to try, Johnny said. I know. May the Elder Gods. Raiden then caught himself. He then extended his hand. Good luck. Johnny looked at Raiden's hand. Then, to Raiden's surprise, Johnny stepped back 3 steps. Raising his hands in a praying position, and at chest level, Johnny bowed. Sub-Zero and Scorpion followed suit, bowing to Raiden and Fujin as well, only they did it at the waist. Takeda and Jin mimicked the gods of ice and hellfire. Jax, Cassie, Sonya and Jackie snapped to attention and saluted. Nightwolf materialized a tomahawk in one hand and thumped her chest like a Roman soldier. The gesture moved both Raiden and Fujin. It was more than just a silent farewell. It was the new god's way of saying, it was an honor. Then, Johnny broke the bow. A tug to his pants drew his attention. He bent down and picked up Cassie, violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Time to go, Nightwolf. The Madokan goddess nodded. Drawing on the power of the Jinsei, she chanted. Eyes glowing, hands weaving, she conjured a portal. Raiden and Fujin watched as the exiled gods and their families stepped through. Johnny and Jax were the last to walk through, both men cradling their respective daughters. Cassie and Jackie both waved at the former gods. Raiden and Fujin waved back just as both gods stepped through the portal. The portal snapped shut. Raiden sighed heavily as he sat on an overturned piece of stone. It was finally done. It was over. Now what do we do? Fujin asked. Raiden sighed heavily as he looked at his counterpart. We prepare for the end, Fujin. We prepare to die. Flashback. 2 years earlier, following Shinnok's defeat. Seated on his throne, Liu Kang's golden red eyes looked down on his former mentor with nothing but contempt. Katana, seated next to him, her own eyes matching those of Liu's own. However, unlike the battered and bruised thunder god that they had beaten down in the Sky Temple, this Raiden looked different. The conical straw hat looked the same, but his clothing had taken on darker colors, his skin tone was darker, and his eyes glowed yellow, rather than blue. To add insult to injury, Shinnok's amulet was clearly seen, as Raiden wore it on his chest, near his right shoulder. Slung over the other, was a sack. You dare show your face here, Thunder God. Liu sneered. I thought the beating that we had given you back at the Sky Temple had made you learn your place. Or maybe, you have come to pay us homage, as we now rule the Netherrealm, Katana added. Then again, if we don't like your tribute, perhaps a second lesson is in order. Raiden paid the threats no mind as he folded his arms across his chest. Too long have I allowed Earth Realm to endure the horrors of war, the dark god growled, Lu and Katana noticing the change in his tone. Time and again we've defeated our enemies. But we've exacted no retribution. Demanded no remuneration. Raiden unfolded his arms and took a step forward. And what have we gained for our mercy? More intrigue. More senseless violence. The last word had some power behind it, causing Lu and Katana others to flinch slightly. Raiden smirked, seeing that his words were starting to sink in. Raiden stepped back before continuing on. As the new rulers of the Netherrealm, heed me. No longer will I simply defend Earthrealm. I will seek out and destroy all who threaten it. One hand clenched into a fist. No mercy will be shown. No quarter given. One hand opened the satchel, while the other reached inside. Lu and Katana's eyes widened in horror as Raiden flung the head of Shinnok onto the carpet, where it rolled to a stop, the head still alive and in great pain, unable to speak. Raiden pointed to the still living head. Shinnok was an elder god. Impossible to kill. One final time, he stepped forward. As he drove his threat home. There are fates worse than death. The message sent. Raiden raised his hand to the heavens, and disappeared in a bolt of lightning, the scorched carpet the only sign of his being there. Lu and Katana rose from their thrones and walked over to the severed head. Then they looked at each other, seeing the worried looks on the others' faces, before turning back to the dismembered head. End flashback. He was thinking about that day again. That day that his former mentor had presented both him and Katana with Shinnok's severed head, alive and still in unspeakable pain, along with the warning that was summarized quite plainly by Stryker. Steer clear of Earthrealm, or else. Liu Kang chose, else. With Shinnok reduced to a still living head and Quan Kai now dead, the process of rebuilding the Netherrealm's forces had been slow going. Consolidating his and Katana's power by beating the denizens of the realm into submission had severely depleted his and Katana's forces. For 2 years, the former champion of Mortal Kombat, now the Emperor of the Netherrealm, plotted and schemed in order to finish what Shinnok had started and to finally kill Raiden once and for all. While no longer following the ways of the Shaolin, there are some habits that not even the former champion of Earthrealm turned Revenant Emperor couldn't break. He was from the waist up, in the lotus position, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Meditation helped with calming the turmoil in his tortured soul. So far, it wasn't helping. So much unleft in Earthrealm. So many scores to be settled, debts that needed to be repaid, with interest. He found a small room within Shinnok's old fortress, Katana and himself having claimed it as their own after naming themselves Emperor and Empress, using it as his meditation chamber. But the main thought in his mind was how in the devil Shinnok had lost to that pathetic child with idiots for parents. He could almost see Johnny Cage laughing his SS off in schadenfreude-tastic hilarity at seeing Shinnok's return being cut short by his own daughter. Then again, it wasn't the first time Shinnok underestimated a Cage. Then again, Shinnok nor the other revenants were privy to Cage's warrior bloodline, otherwise Johnny would have been number 1 on the Netherrealm hit list alongside Raiden. Liu wouldn't make that mistake again. Once he unleashed hell on Earthrealm, he would personally see to it that the Cage bloodline was extinct. Emperor. Liu's eyes opened, golden, hellish eyes staring at the Edenian who was his companion's childhood friend and bodyguard. Standing alongside her, was the Madokan who had once been Raiden's right-hand man. There is an intruder, Jade reported. Liu rose to his feet. Where? The Bone Temple. Empress Katana has been notified. Liu nodded as he donned his armor. Is it Raiden? No, Emperor. A woman. Not Earthrealmer. Someone else entirely. Nightwolf and Stryker have eyes on her just in case she is hostile. But she has not yet moved. Liu nodded. Where is Katana now? Rallying Sindel, Kung Lao and Enenra. She will meet us en route to the temple. Liu said nothing else as he stalked out of the chamber, Jade and Nightwolf both stepping to the side in order to allow him to pass before following close behind. Shinnok's Bone Temple. A massive cathedral, located underneath the Netherrealm fortress. Originally used by the Brotherhood of the Shadow, it now housed a new, more important relic amongst the bleached bones of the Netherrealm's fallen enemies. The head of Shinnok itself, still alive, encased in powerful magics to keep it levitated and in place. Kronika stood before the severed head of his son, and regarded it with great sorrow and regret. She placed one hand on Shinnok's headdress and sighed deeply. "Oh, Shinnok, my dear son, my poor boy," Shinnok groaned, still unable to speak. "This was not to be your destiny, my son," Kronika lamented. "Raiden has taken it upon himself to upset the balance of history. Know this, the universe bends to my will. It is only a matter of time before Raiden faces judgment." She turned her head, and faced the gathered revenants, who stood weapons at the ready, only to be shocked as to discover that the mystery woman was in fact, the mother of their fallen god. "Would you not agree with that sentiment, Liu Kang?" "You are not an elder god," Liu said. "The elder gods bow to the will of the titans," Kronika replied. "Myself included. I am Kronika, the keeper of time." She gestured to Shinnok's head. "Shinnok is my son. The sands of time guide the destiny of the realms, and every soul therein. Since time immemorial, I have worked, carefully crafting them to maintain the balance. However, Raiden's actions have irreversibly tainted my work's perfection." She gestured to Liu and the other revenants. "You and your companions have felt that pain most acutely. What can be done?" Katana asked. "The past is the past. It cannot be changed. Nor it need not be, Empress," Kronika replied. "I intend to rewind time back to its beginnings and restart history. However, even with my vast power, I cannot design my new era alone." "This new era you speak of," the Emperor began, "exactly how will it be different?" "Oh, in many ways, Emperor Kong," Kronika replied. "But most importantly, Raiden will no longer exist." Liu and Katana looked at one another, while the other revenants whispered amongst themselves. A timeline where Raiden no longer existed. That sounded too good to be true. "If we are to have an accord, Lady Kronika, then I have a request," Liu said. "I want to kill Raiden myself." Kronika didn't hesitate. "Agreed. Second, his champions must die," Katana seconded. "Nothing is to remain of Raiden's stench. The Cage and Briggs families, Hanzo Hasashi, Kue Liang, Takahashi Takeda and his son, Kung Jin, everyone connected to Raiden must die." "Of that, do I leave to your design, Empress," Kronika agreed. "So, we have an accord." Liu's lips twisted into a sinister smile. "How do we begin?" Kronika merely smiled. That alone spoke volumes. "We begin now. Treasure this moment, Liu Kang. For today, it will be the last for Raiden and his champions." Kamar Taj, the Himalayas EARTH 616. Kamar Taj, a secluded community nestled in the Himalayan mountains near Tibet. The town has long since been the home of sorcerers and mystics seeking knowledge and enlightenment, Nightwolf being among them. For the exiled gods and their families, it was a place of temporary refuge, following 2 years of training at the Sky Temple. But whereas 2 years had passed for them, it had been merely a month following the exiled god's last visit to the New Earth realm. For Nightwolf, it felt like a homecoming, despite the somber mood. For 2 days, the exiled gods and their families mourned the deaths of Raiden and Fujin. Today was Zero Day, the day in which Raiden and Fujin would fall to Kronika and her forces. None took it more harder than Johnny Cage. For over 20 years, he served as Raiden's champion following the death of Liu Kang. There had been plenty of hiccups over the years, and both he and Raiden butted heads during his tenure. But Johnny served as Raiden's champion without too much complaint. But now, as he watched as Cassie and the other kids played a game of hide-and-seek with the children of the community, he was planning his next move. "You're brooding, Cage." The voice was rough, English with a Japanese accent. Johnny knew who it was automatically. Brooding. That's your area of expertise, Hanzo. Hanzo Hisashi. Former Netherrealm Revenant. Now the Shirai Ryu Grandmaster and God of Hellfire. Just don't call him Scorpion. He was unmasked, dressed in the black shinobi shozuku with yellow overmantle and matching leg guards. The same uniform he wore all those years ago on Shang Tsung's island fortress. The Shirai Ryu boss stood alongside Johnny, looking down at the children playing. I guess you can say that I'm an expert in that field, the God of Hellfire admitted. Your plans saved lives, John. I know, Johnny replied simply. After a pause, the God of Wind continued. You know, I finally get it. The whole, avenge the family and clan, thing. Having understood is not the same as having lost, Cage. Oh, there were some close calls, believe you me. In all honesty, if I had lost Cassie, then I'd probably gone nuts too. Scorpion grunted. Fatherhood has changed you for the better. I call it character development. Hanzo rolled his eyes. For the most part, anyway. He flicked his head. Come, it's time for lunch. Yao wants to speak with us. Regarding Lu and the others. Possibly. Johnny turned from the courtyard and followed Hanzo back inside the main compound. After 2 years of living on the Shaolin's diet, lunchtime for the exiled gods felt like a banquet. Fruits, several slices of bread smeared with butter and salt, vegetables and dried pieces of meat, complete with ice-cold juice and water to wash it all down. Johnny noted that Team SF was absent. He took a seat beside Sonia, who was consuming the food like a woman possessed. Jax watched this with an amused expression, as did Johnny. You know, the last time I've seen you put food away like that, you were pregnant with Cassie, Johnny mused. Sonia gave Johnny the stink eye as she took a pull of her drink. You're just begging to be punched in that pretty little face of yours, Cage. Normally, when Sonia threatened Johnny's face, Johnny would relent. Instead, he leaned forward, gray eyes locking onto Violet, and said a single word. Paper cuts. Sonia blanched. Sure, she was a combat veteran with 30 years worth of experience. Sure, she fought in 2 inter-realm wars, endured inter-realm intrigue, and being married to Johnny. But paper cuts, oh, they freaked her out something serious. Jax remembered Sonia screaming bloody murder when she got one on her finger. Johnny, for his part, thought it was a weird phobia. And as it turned out, it had to be genetic, as Cassie herself had the same problem. Sonia backed down. That was low, Cage. Then don't threaten the face. Sonia fumed, her expression promising pain in Johnny's future. Is everything to you liking? The exiled gods rose from their seat. Nightwolf bowed. Master Yao. The wizened old sorcerer strode towards the exiled gods. Black Sky. Miss Blade. Mrs. Briggs, he said, greeting Nightwolf by her real name. To the gods, he simply said, gentlemen. He motioned for them to sit down, and he joined them. The children are enjoying themselves, Yao said. Wong is being run ragged looking after them, but he enjoys their company. You found something on Lu and the others, haven't you? Nightwolf asked. Yao smiled. How perspective of you, Black Sky, the Sorcerer Supreme replied. I have. But before that, I have something to ask of you. All of you. What is it? Sonia asked. If your children developed abilities that humans considered to be unnatural, would you continue to love and cherish them unconditionally? Posed Yao. Jax was the first to answer. I may not have been the best dad, but I'd do anything and everything for baby girl. Vera nodded in support of that statement. Takeda may not be my blood, Hanzo growled, but I am the closest thing to a father he has. I raised him, trained him. I am as much of a father to him as Kenshi was in blood. Jin has his flaws, Sub-Zero said, but with the proper guidance, he can become a better man. Johnny and Sonia exchanged looks. Then they turned back to Yao. That's my daughter. My warrior princess. There's nothing in this world that I wouldn't do for her, Johnny replied. Yao nodded. Then he turned to Sonia. I made plenty of mistakes when I chose my job over my family, Sonia admitted. Cassie was no mistake, no matter how I treated her. You're right about this being a second chance for me to actually be a mother. I would love her regardless. Yao nodded. Well said. All of you. The reason why I asked is that earlier in the day, Cassandra and the other children were complaining of migraines. I healed them of their affliction, only to find something interesting. Tell me, what do you know about telepathy and telekinesis? Takeda's father was a telepath, Hanzo replied. And Takeda himself is a telepath. Johnny added. Plus, we had a couple of encounters with the bad guys. So yeah, we're familiar with them. Sonia got to the point. Are you saying that Cassie and the others are telepaths? Yao nodded. Yes. Here, in this realm, despite their being demigods, Cassandra and the others would be considered, labeled, as mutants. Here, a mutant is a human blessed, or depending on their view, cursed, with extraordinary powers. Normal humans are prejudiced against mutants, so be careful around those who despise them. So it's safe to say that despite us being immortals, we'd fall under the same category, right? Sub-Zero inquired. Unfortunately, yes, Grandmaster Liang, Yao said. However, there's more. Aside from mutants, this realm is also home to gods. Like us, Johnny said. Technically, they're extra-dimensional beings that are worshipped as gods. But still, gods, Yao said with a wave of his hand. Greek, Japanese, African, Norse, and so on. If I know the pantheons, they are aware of your presence. However, they have adapted a wait-and-see approach regarding the lot of you. Trust, but verify, Hanzo asked. It's what I'd have done, Jax said, with Sonia nodding. Assess the situation, and see if we're friendlies or a threat. Out of the four, Takeda is the strongest of the telepaths, Yao continued. And there could be a secondary mutation. What it could be, I don't know. We just have to wait and see. Is there anyone friendly that can help them better control their powers? Vera asked. There is, Mrs. Briggs. Charles Xavier. Mutant telepath. He operates a private school out in New York. He can be trusted. We'll look into it, Johnny said. Now, about Lou and the others. Ah, yes, of course. Yao paused to take a drink of water. Their locations. The first is in Japan, somewhere near Yokohama. The second is in Manchuria, near the Chinese-Russian border. The third is in an orphanage near San Francisco's Chinatown. And the last is in a group home in Oakland. All right, we'll get onto that straight away, Sonia said. How will we recognize them? Hanzo asked. You will be drawn to them, Yao replied. Your past memories of past encounters will confirm their identity. After that, they will be your responsibility. Is there a window? Nightwolf asked. 6 months. After that, they will be lost to you, Yao replied. There is another matter regarding the reincarnated ones. Several in fact. Go on, Sub-Zero said. Do you remember the circumstances surrounding Queen Sindal's resurrection? Yao asked. Shao Kahn had Quan Kai revive her in Earth Realm, as her soul was used as a seal to keep Kahn from invading Earth Realm, Hanzo surmised, eyes widening in realization, as did his comrades. Yao nodded. The children are indeed living seals, designed to keep Chronica from fully merging this Earth with Earth Realm. Their souls are now forever bound to this Earth. And the second thing? Nightwolf asked. Yes, that. Yao took another drink of water. I have foreseen that Chronica's allies will track you lot down by tracking the good halves of the reincarnated ones. Black Sky. Once they are found, ward them to keep them off your radar for as long as possible. The longer they remain undetected, the longer you have to prepare for the inevitable conflict. I'll see to it, Master, Nightwolf said. Johnny stood up and cleared his throat. Excuse me, Sonia and I have an announcement to make. As you guys already know, we're getting remarried. We've agreed on a date, which is 3 months from now. But we're not going for a big wedding, Sonia continued. Just a small courtroom wedding. Once we get settled in, we'll send the details. Congratulations to the both of you, Yao said. 3 months. Cutting it close, aren't you? Nightwolf asked. Becky sent me the info needed to rejoin the military, Sonia replied. The army is pretty open to mutants, provided that they sign up under the military registry. The other branches were not too keen on having mutants in their ranks. Plus, if I get my degree in 4 years, I can go to OCS. You got that info with you? Jax asked. Sonia nodded as Johnny sat back down. I'll show it to you, Jax. Once again, another brainstorming session was underway as the exiled gods made plans on how to approach the reincarnated combatants. Only problem was that Yao was silent on who was who in regards to their locations. KO Industrial Zone, Tokyo, 2 weeks later. His mama was hurt bad, only 4 years old, and he had experienced such horrific trauma in his young life. His father, grandparents and brother killed by the bad men in red, then kidnapped alongside his mother and taken someplace far away from their home. He did not understand the words they said, as he only spoke Chinese and hardly any Japanese. They had escaped from the bad men over a week ago. They could not return home, as there was no home for them to return to. And the bad men were hot on their trail. Mama did manage to lose them in Tokyo, where they remained hidden for a time. Until they found them, the bad men in red. But Mama was hurt as they escaped. Mama wasn't moving. She was slumped up against the wall, head bowed, her energy spent. His small hands grabbed her shirt, stained with her blood, trying to shake her awake. Mama, get up, please. There you are. The boy screamed as a hand grabbed his shirt and hoisted him into the air. His eyes widened in horror as he found himself staring in the cold eyes of a man. A man in a red shinobi shozoku. Behind him were several more bad men clad crimson. Your mother have caused us a lot of grief, the ninja said. No one escapes the hand. In desperation, the boy bit the ninja's hand. The ninja yelped in surprise and threw the boy to the ground. You little bastard, he bellowed as he looked down on the stunned boy. Be thankful that the beast has chosen you to act as his vessel. Otherwise, I'd open your neck and leave you dead like your whore of a mother. Whoosh. Anger gave way to confusion as the hand and the boy heard something slice the air. Stab. For the lead hand ninja, confusion gave way to shock as he looked down at the kunai that was sticking out of his chest. Said kunai was connected to a length of chain. Get over here. The lead ninja was yanked over the boy and into the darkness. His screams came to an end as the visceral sound of steel rending flesh echoed in the alleyway. And the boy saw him. Another ninja, only this one wasn't like the bad men in red. His shozoku was all black, sleeveless, showing off his muscular arms, with a yellow overmantle designed as armor, the leg greaves also yellow. His face was concealed by the full head mask, the mask itself also yellow and armor-like. In one hand was a ninjutsu, stained with the blood of the slain lead ninja. In the other was the chained kunai. The yellow-clad ninja looked at the boy cowering beside his mother. Then, he turned his attention back to the hand ninja. Leave this place, he ordered. Leave this place, or die. About 12 minutes earlier, Hanzo Hasashi wasn't a patient man. He was a man who favored direct action. Or, as Johnny would put it, stab this guy, gut this guy, burn the next 3. Then if anyone is alive, then ask the questions. But during his time at the Sky Temple, the former Spectre had learned patience and restraint from Raiden. Acting on impulse can be beneficial, but sometimes, it can lead to unforeseen consequences. Hanzo himself knew this lesson all too well. For the past 2 weeks, Hanzo was overseeing the Shirai Ryu's resettlement. A Shirai Ryu hides in plain sight. What better way to practice that little modicum than to make one's home in a deserted resort town? The town of Sanada had been deserted for several years. Well, almost, as there had been a single occupant who operated a tea house that catered to travelers passing through the deserted town. Hotaru Fukuda was an enigma to him. In a way, she had the same gentle strength that Harumi had when she was alive. But there was something else surrounding her. She was giving off the same aura that surrounded Takeda and the other demigods. She was thankful for the new business that the Shirai Ryu had sent her way, and in response, left them to their own designs. But he pushed the thoughts of Hotaru out of his mind as he continued on his mission. He had the sudden urge to travel to Tokyo, and after donning the basic uniform of the Shirai Ryu and arming himself with his sword and short sword, traveled to Tokyo via portal. Hotaru was a good source of information. The ninja clans were already on notice regarding the Shirai Ryu's emergence, but there were 2 clans that Hanzo had to watch out for. The Black Ninja Clan, a clan of ninja assassins under the employ of the prominent Yashida clan. And then, there was the Hand, a ninja clan bestowed with magical abilities from their demonic master known as the Beast. Trained in martial arts, stealth and subterfuge. To Hanzo, the Hand sounded like a lightweight version of the Black Dragon back in Earth Realm. It was Hotaru that had given him the information needed that gave Hanzo the push to travel to Tokyo, as she had friends in that part of the country. A Chinese family was attacked by the Hand in their Yokohama Chinatown home. But what really piqued Hanzo's interest was that the family that was attacked had the last name of Kong. Li Kong, a prominent businessman, deceased. His son, Chan Kong, also deceased. But his wife, a local martial artist mutant named Lin Kong, and his youngest son was missing. The most likely suspects were the Hand. So Hanzo spent the next several hours searching for clues. He finally caught a break upon seeing several ninja in red shozoku in hot pursuit of something. Or rather, someone. Now, leave this place, Hanzo ordered. Leave this place, or die. When the Hand chose to attack instead, Hanzo had something of a maniacal grin on his face. If there was one thing that he missed was the battle madness. And he hadn't had a good fight ever since arriving in the New Earth realm. The Hand that attacked him were no challenge. They assumed that since they outnumbered him 6-1, that they had the numerical advantage. But in such narrow quarters, that advantage was lost. The boy watched with widened eyes as the yellow ninja leapt into the air, and vanished in a plume of flame. He reappeared behind one of the bad men, and kicked him hard in the back of his neck. The meaty, sickening snap of the ninja's neck left him dead before he hit the ground. He then vanished again and reappeared, decapitating another ninja. A third ninja was flipped on his side, the yellow ninja jamming his kunai in between the red-clad ninja's eyes. Looking up, the remaining 3 Hand ninja charged at him. He quickly removed his kunai and drew his sword. Parrying one blow, he sliced open Hand ninja number 4's neck, nearly decapitating that ninja, before spinning around to face the remaining 2. The boy watched in awe as the yellow ninja literally breathed fire from his mask, engulfing ninja number 5 and burning him down to the bones. That left the last ninja. No mercy, the Hand ninja pleaded, throwing down his sword and raising his hands in surrender. I have none to give, Hanzo replied as he slashed twice. The first slash severed the man's jugular and carotid arteries, while the second slash was aimed at his torso. The force of the slash literally made the upper man's body flip onto the ground, his lower half keeling to the ground. It was over. Hanzo flicked the blood from his sword and sheathed it. He turned to the boy, who was watching this act of violence with awe in his young eyes. That awe soon turned to fear as Hanzo approached him and his mother. "Don't be afraid of me, boy." The sentence came out in a growl, but it did calm the boy down. Crouching down, Hanzo inspected the woman. No vitals. He raised her head. Her eyes were glassy, staring out into nothingness. She was dead. When Hanzo reached over and closed her eyes, the boy knew. "I'm sorry," Hanzo said. "She's gone." He bawled into Hanzo's shoulder. Despite the flood of memories that rushed Hanzo's mind, confirming that the boy was one of the resurrected combatants, Hanzo couldn't help but to feel sympathy for the boy. But they could not stay here. Cradling the sobbing boy in his arms, Hanzo stood up and disappeared in a geyser of fire. When the hands backup arrived, all they found were the bodies of their fallen comrades, and the body of the child's mother who had obviously died fighting. The boy in question, however, was nowhere to be found. Shirai Ryu Fire Gardens, Sanada, Japan. It felt weird, sitting across from the reincarnation of Liu Kang. For Hanzo, most of his memories regarding the monk in question were either being Raiden's champion or Shinnok's right hand. Last he heard of Liu, his revenant counterpart had taken over the Netherrealm with katana. For the boy that he saved, he was on his second bowl of ramen. 3 days without food, fear overriding hunger, it reminded Hanzo of Takeda's own plight, fleeing the Red Dragon alongside his father. Hanzo sighed. Kenshi had been a good friend. He didn't deserve to die the way he did, shot down like a dog. "Don't eat too fast," Hanzo scolded gently. "You don't want to choke on your food." The boy complied. "He has a healthy appetite," Hotaru said from her place at the counter. The enigmatic shop owner was not surprised in the slightest when Hanzo appeared in front of her tea shop by portal and entered with a boy in his arms. She took one look at his scrawny form and knew what needed to be done. Fortunately, she still had some ramen left over from the day's special, and brought out a warm bowl of the stuff. The boy consumed the meal, broth and all, and asked for another bowl. "That he does," Hanzo said. He turned back to the boy. "I am sorry about your mother, boy. She died protecting you. There is no greater honor than a parent giving their life for their child." "I know the feeling," Hotaru said in a Sato tone. Hanzo heard her, but decided not to pursue it further. "But where will I go?" the boy asked, sniffling. "No family. Parents gone. Brother gone. Bad men killed them all." "No, you do have a family, boy," Hanzo said. "If you desire it, the Shirai Ryu can be your family." "What's Shirai Ryu?" the boy asked, stumbling over the words. "The Shirai Ryu is a ninja clan, child," Hanzo explained. "I am its Grand Master. We do not share blood ties, but we are a family. We look out for one another. Tell me, what do you want?" "I wanna see bad men pay for what they did," the boy said. Hanzo nodded. "I've been down that path before, boy. I, too, lost my family. My wife and son. We are alike in many ways. Sometimes, the lines of justice and vengeance can cross and it can become obsession. I can show you how to move, how to think, how to act like a Shirai Ryu when meting out justice, and how to act with honor. Do you want that?" The boy nodded. "Good." Hanzo then introduced himself. "My name is Hanzo Hisashi. Starting tomorrow, you will address me as Hanzo-sensei, or Master Hisashi. Understand?" Again, the boy nodded. "Good. Now, what's your name?" Hanzo asked, already knowing the answer. Liu Kang. "Finish up your meal, Liu Kang," Hanzo ordered. "I will show you around the fire gardens. Then come the day after tomorrow, your training will begin. Lucky Dragon Orphanage, San Francisco, California." She hated the orphanage. She felt like an outcast here. The kids were bad, but the orphanage's matron was a lot worse. "You are cursed. People no want cursed child. You bad for orphanage, she told her. No one want you. The kids were no better. She grew up with their insults in her young mind. Poison child, cursed child. She was only 3 years old, and hated the orphanage. She hated the kids who picked on her, who pushed her around, who stole her toys and broke them. But most of all, she hated the matron, who allowed them to get away with it every damn time. I wanna leave here. I hate it here, she thought as she sat on a bench in the orphanage's backyard, hugging her knees, watching as the children played tag, hide and seek. Games she should be joining in, but not. Once again, she was left out, as the orphanage's matron poisoned their minds against her. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, trying not to cry, but failing. You know, it's too nice of a day to be unhappy. The girl looked up, and into the violet eyes of a blonde woman. Unlike the matron, whose eyes show nothing but contempt, these eyes showed kindness and compassion. She was dressed weird in the girl's eyes, wearing a nice sundress, and a pair of military-style combat boots. In her hands, she was holding a teddy bear. Mind if I sit down? The woman asked. The girl shook her head, and the woman sat beside her, placing the teddy bear in between them. The girl was eyeing the stuffed animal with interest. Why so sad? The woman asked. No one wants to play with me, the girl whimpered as she wiped her eyes again. I'm cursed. I'm poison. Other kids say same thing. Matron too. Good thing her soon-to-be husband was dealing with the matron, otherwise, she would be wringing that old woman's neck. Or zapping her repeatedly with her lightning. Whichever comes first. She calmed herself down. Oh, sweetie, you're not cursed, the woman said. No one is born cursed. Some may have it harder than others, but cursed. No, people stumble, but we get back up and keep moving forward. You understand? The girl nodded. Her eyes went back to the teddy bear. When I was your age, my father bought me a bear like this one. He was my confidant, my best friend. She nudged it towards the girl. Go on. Take it. The girl complied. She took the bear, and smiled brightly at the stuffed animal. There you go. The woman smiled. Now, hug it as hard as you can. The girl did so. She hugged the stuffed animal until her arms tired. Feel better? The woman asked. The girl nodded. The woman patted the girl on her head and smiled. What's your name, kid? Katana. The girl introduced herself. Katana Khan. I'm Sonia, the woman said, extending her hand. Katana shook it. Nice to meet you, Katana. She looked at the other orphans, who were now looking at them, with some of them interested in the teddy bear in Katana's hands. Sonia turned back to the young girl, who was now looking scared. Would you like to come with me? Eagerly, Katana nodded. The woman was also strong, Katana realized as she scooped her in her arms and picked her up. For a brief second, memories flooded Sonia's mind, showing that she had the right person. Still gripping the teddy bear, Katana settled in as Sonia carried her out of the backyard of the orphanage and back inside. While this is going on, Johnny Cage was fighting the urge to flay the matron alive as he watched Sonia make contact with Katana. The matron, a portly woman in her late 40s, her voice scratchy from being a chain smoker for most of her life, passed on Katana's folder to him, all the while insulting the reincarnated Edenian. That girl, she no good. She's tainted, cursed. You want nice girl. Katana bad omen. Johnny opened up the file. Katana Khan. Vietnamese father, Chinese mother. Mother died in childbirth. Father's whereabouts unknown. Not a lot to work with, but we'll make do. He closed the folder, just as Sonia entered the room, cradling Katana in her arms. The matron flinched under Sonia's glare as she said in a cool tone, "Get the papers ready. We'll take her." Clearly intimidated, the matron produced the adoption papers. Johnny and Sonia signed them and paid the adoption fees in cash. All the while the matron was muttering under her breath in Chinese. Unfortunately for the matron, both Johnny and Sonia understood every word. But they ignored her for the moment. "And who's your new friend?" he asked in a friendly tone, flashing the young girl a disarming smile. "Katana, this is Johnny," Sonia replied, adjusting the young girl in her arms. "Hey, kiddo," Johnny greeted, gently patting the young girl on the head. "Are you gonna be my daddy?" Katana asked shyly. "If you want me to be," Johnny replied. "Do you want me to be your new daddy?" Katana nodded. Pocketing the adoption papers, Johnny followed Sonia and Katana out of the office, but stopped at the doorway and turned around to face the matron. "By the way, try not to call potential foster parents dumbasses. It may backfire on you." Smirking at the fuming matron, Johnny left the office. Originally, there was 3. Now, the Cage family had a newest addition to the family. At the same time, in Oakland, about 5 minutes after Johnny and Sonia had left, Jax and Vera Briggs had taken off in the Chevy Tahoe. Jax had picked up the truck at a government auction. Force of habit with him. Even back in Earth Realm, he drove only government-issued vehicles, a habit that carried over after he had left the army. That same hunch that had taken Johnny and Sonia had crept up upon the god of Earth. Following a ride down the Golden Gate Bridge, Jax and Vera parked in front of a group home. To Jax, it felt like he was back in command of SF. He was a man on a mission. Only this time, it was to win the heart and mind of a former comrade in arms, both as a mortal and as a revenant. He found her in the backyard, alone, sitting under a tree. She was an outcast, a dark-skinned girl of about 3 years old. The other children had been taken to the city park. But she remained behind. No need to be chased out of the park again. The social worker assigned to the group home also lived there, overseeing the children and the adoption process. She was cordial towards the Briggs. "Her name is Jade Doe," the social worker explained, going through the girl's file. "Real last name unknown. Abandoned by her mother at the age of 2. Vera's blood began to boil. Who would do such a thing to such a sweet little girl? People tend to fear what they don't understand," the woman replied. "She has, well, been showing off some unnatural abilities." Jax and Vera turned to the social worker. "She's a mutant," Jax said. Maybe not," the social worker replied. "But she has lashed out when attacked. Sent one of the boys flying into a tree." Jax looked at the girl. "Maybe she's a mutant. Maybe it's something else entirely. Either way, she's a tough kid. I like that." The social worker looked puzzled. "Excuse me." Jax's tone was firm, but absolute. "She was born with no advantages in life. I want to see her rewarded than punished." He turned to Vera. "Get the papers ready. I'll go and talk to Jade." Vera nodded. Outside, she sat underneath the shade of the tree, watching the big man approach her with a wary eye. To Jade, the big guy was like a mountain. He said nothing as he sat down beside her. Jax looked at her. Brown eyes met green orbs, the color of her namesake. "So, Jade, isn't it?" Jax asked. The girl was silent. "The name's pretty fitting," he said. "You know, Jade is valued in China not only for its beauty, but also its resilience." He placed a hand on the ground. Jade looked down and her eyes widened as to what happened next. The dirt separated like Moses parting the Red Sea, revealing a small rock the size of his thumb. Jax picked it up. A chunk of jade. How ironic. Jade watched with wide eyes as the rock began to transform, as if an invisible stonecutter was whittling away at the rock. "You may think you're a freak, but you have a gift. It all depends on how you use that gift." He blew at the transformed piece of rock, blowing away the dust and powder, before bringing it back down to Jade. A tiger's head, carved out of the rock. Gingerly, Jade took it and ran her tiny fingers all over the carving, marveling at the big man's handiwork. She looked at the man in wonder. And she knew. Somehow. She knew she could trust him. Jax stood up. Jade quickly followed suit. Bending down, he picked up Jade and stood back up, walking back to the house. Jax had won her over. Jade Doe. Not a good name, Jax said. Jade Briggs is more like it. Jade Briggs, Jade repeated, speaking for the first time. I like it, Dad. Jax grinned. We'll get along real fine, kid. And thus, the Briggs family went up from 3 to 4. The Cove, Seaside District, San Francisco. Jax and Vera Briggs had to admit that Johnny and Sonia had chosen a nice place to live. It wasn't Venice Beach or Beverly Hills, but the beachside home was impressive. It wasn't as big as the Venice Beach condo back in Earth Realm, but it was nice regardless. The beach house was originally a bed and breakfast inn before Johnny had bought it out from its previous owners, and had converted it to his personal home, 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. It also had a guest house, consisting of 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, of which the Briggs family were currently residing. The home was chosen due to its seclusion and privacy, located in a quiet section of San Francisco's Seacliff district, complete with a postcard-perfect view of the Golden Gate Bridge. Katana and Jade were both asleep in what would become Katana's room, Katana with her stuffed bear in her arms, while Jade also held a stuffed tiger in hers, Jax and Vera having bought the gift on their way back to San Francisco. Cassie and Jackie were also asleep, the day's events finally wearing them out. With Katana and Jade, a friendship was born, and with Cassie and Jackie, they each got a little sister. Vera Briggs smiled as she watched the 4 girls slept from the open doorway in what would become Katana's bedroom. Leaving the girls be, she walked down the hallway, past a snoring Rebecca Cage who was stretched out on the couch, and into the backyard patio. Sonia and Johnny were seated on a pair of deck chairs, while Vera joined Jax on the couch. Training is about the same as it was back in Earth Realm, Sonia was saying as Vera sat beside Jax. She then asked Vera, "How are they?" "Sleeping," the Briggs matriarch replied. "Cassie and Jackie too. Kinda weird, seeing Jade and Katana as kids," Jax said as he took a puff of his cigar. "That's what's weird," Sonia retorted. "That and you and Johnny getting back together," Jax added. "After 20 years of inter-realm intrigue, I'm kinda desensitized as to what's weird anymore," Sonia said. She turned back into the direction of Katana's bedroom. "You sensed something about Jade?" Jax nodded. "Yeah, she might be a mutant. Can't really tell. She's giving off the same vibe as Nightwolf. Think she might be able to help," Johnny suggested. "Wouldn't hurt to get another opinion on your kid, Jax. She could be a mutant or a mystic like Wolfie." Jax took another puff as he considered Johnny's suggestion. I could see if she could have a look at Jade. She's coming by tomorrow to ward the place," Sonia said. "You can ask her then." Jax nodded. "Heard anything from Hanzo or Kue?" Becky relayed a message left by Mr. Toasty. "He called earlier while we were out picking up Katana and Jade," Johnny reported, chuckling as Jax rolled his eyes in annoyance, as did Sonia at Johnny's nickname for Hanzo, regardless of how fitting it was. "Hanzo found kid number 3. "Which one?" Jax asked. Johnny smirked. "The original chosen dude himself." "Liu Kong?" inquired Sonia. Johnny confirmed this with a nod. "Well, this should be interesting. From Shaolin monk to Shirai Ryu ninja. Guess that means that Kung Lao's joining Team Lin Kuei once Kuei finds him." Jilin Province, China. It had been a Shaolin temple before it was abandoned in the years following the Japanese occupation of Manchuria. Following the defeat of the Japanese in the Second World War, it lay deserted and forgotten. The temple was a hidden marvel in itself, around the same size as the old Lin Kuei temple. While abandoned, the temple needed only slight repairs. The closest town sat near the province's border with Russia and North Korea. It was also self-sufficient with an underground spring. For Kuei Liang, it was perfect. 2 weeks had passed since the exiled gods had left Kamar Taj. Since then, Sub-Zero had returned to the Lin Kuei, and helped with the repairs and reconstruction efforts, all paid for with the cash Johnny Cage had left him. Of course, the local Communist Party chieftain paid a visit to the place, as he was curious as to what was going on with the abandoned temple, but the God of Ice merely explained that he had bought the property and was transforming it into a martial arts academy. That satisfied the local party boss, who left him and the clan alone. With the Lin Kuei now free to rebuild without hindrance, Sub-Zero focused his attention on finding the final kid. He had received word from San Francisco that the Cage and Briggs families had found Katana and Jade respectively, and Liu Kang was safe and sound with Hanzo and the Shirai Ryu. When he wasn't helping with the reconstruction, he was checking the towns for any clues regarding Kung Lao. So far, none. Sometimes, however, fate seems to work in one's favor. The old man sat at the gates of the temple. Standing beside him was a boy of 4 years of age. The man was a monk, which was more than obvious by the robes he wore. A set of prayer beads were in one hand as he chanted a small prayer. Sub-Zero was slightly wary as he approached the old man and the boy. His time in the Netherrealm and as Grand Master has left him erring on the side of caution. "Can I help you with something?" the God of Ice asked. The monk looked up, his prayer complete. "I have been expecting you. Kuei Liang. Or would you prefer Lord Liang?" Sub-Zero tilted his head. "You know of me." "Oh, yes, I am a seer, and I know who you are, God of Ice," the monk confirmed. He gestured to the temple behind the gates. "This place, this temple, is built on the ruins of an old fortress, cut deep inside the mountain. This land had its own share of cryomancers until they were driven off and vanished into history. Their history, in a way, is yours." Sub-Zero looked at the boy, who glared back at him with puffed cheeks. He almost cracked a grin, the boy attempting to look tough. "And the boy, I believe he is the one you are seeking," the monk replied. "A reincarnated warrior whose soul was reborn into a new life. A monk's life is not for him. He and those who shall become his friends, they have a great role to play." He nudged the boy forward several steps. "I release young Kung Lao to your charge, Lord Liang." He stood up. "Be warned, the future is not yet set in stone. Many things can happen once the Titan and her forces come to this realm. The boy must be ready to face the trials, as does his friends." "Kung Lao will be ready," Sub-Zero vowed. "As for the others, they have good teachers and mentors in my fellow gods." "I know, but we all must choose our destiny, Grand Master Liang. Including the exiled gods," the monk said. "You must never forget that." Sub-Zero watched as the monk walked down the path and disappearing once turning around the bend. Then, a hard tug at his pants leg. "Hey, Snowman." Sub-Zero's eye twitched. Johnny Cage called him by that name. Regardless of how fitting it was. In all honesty, it was much better than Blueberry Ice. He looked down at the boy who was, and would once again, be Liu Kang's friend and rival. "This place is boring," the kid complained. "No, this is your new home," Sub-Zero replied firmly. "A life of a Shaolin is not for you. I will train you myself." Sub-Zero was a good teacher, mind you. But he failed with Frost in curbing her arrogance, which led to the debacle of her trying to kill him back in Earth Realm. He would not make the same mistake again. Not with Kung Lao. The man was already arrogant enough when alive, and that gotten even worse when he was a revenant. "You train me," the boy snorted. "Ha, yes, I will train you," Sub-Zero replied. "You will learn discipline and restraint. Most importantly, you will learn how to carry yourself as a Lin Kuei." Meanwhile, back in Earth Realm, Fujin was dead, his mangled corpse laid at the far end of the Jinsei chamber. Cetrion herself had done the deed. Even without his powers, Fujin was still formidable. But against the traitorous elder goddess, it wasn't enough. Fujin was rendered into 4 bloody pieces, but not before Cetrion demolished his face with a concentrated blast of water, followed by burning his legs to the point that nothing below the knees remained. Raicho was no better. Any shred of remorse the Netherrealm Emperor had for his former teacher was now gone. He had been split from groin to gullet by Kung Lao and his razor-sharp hat. Outside, Nightwolf and Striker were finishing off the Shaolin monks who protected the place. No, the target of his ire was beaten, bloodied and forced to his knees and restrained by Kabul and Enenra. The conical straw hat was destroyed, the cowl pulled back, revealing white hair. In the face of death, Raiden was defiant. The feeling to Liu Kang was cathartic. He had been denied victory over his former mentor by that pathetic child and her team. He had honestly hoped to fight Cage to the death, but was denied when discovering only Raiden and Fujin inside the temple, his champions having abandoned Raiden. So he settled on combating Raiden. Raiden had the upper hand, but Kung Lao and Katana had tipped the scales in his favor. Fujin tried to intervene, but Cetrion had killed him. Raiden didn't make it easy for him, but Katana had quickly neutralized him by slicing the tendons in his ankles. Eyes glowing with intense hatred, flanked by Jade, Katana and Sindel, Liu stood over his former mentor, triumphant. Cetrion stood to the side. She had a look of sadness on her face. Raiden knew that the sadness was a ruse. She was an elder god, but her mother's will would not be denied. Then, she appeared. She emerged from a swirling vortex of golden sand, a bald woman with glowing blue eyes, similar to his own back when he was a god. Cetrion bowed her head and took to a knee in reverence. Liu followed suit, the 3 Edenian revenants mimicking his gesture. Chronica, the Titan of Time. Mother, Cetrion began, the Sky Temple is yours. Those words were barely out of her mouth when a second newcomer appeared. 2 shadowy, vapor-like clouds crept into the Sky Temple, before settling behind and to the side of Chronica. The shadows then materialized into giant skeletal hands, clasping the air. Raiden's face fell. He had seen this thing many years earlier. The giant bone hands unfolded, revealing the bane of Earth Realm. The last time he saw him, he had presented his severed head to Liu and Katana as a warning not to attack Earth Realm. Now, here he was, restored, thanks in part to his mother and her time-bending abilities. The fallen elder god, Shinnok. You seem shocked, Raiden, Shinnok sneered. I told you long ago. You cannot kill an elder god. Especially when it comes to me. Raiden ignored his nemesis, instead turning his attention back to Chronica. I finally understand. You have resetted the timeline so many times, ensure that Liu Kang and I come into conflict. Our combined powers threatens your precious timeline, each time resulting in Liu Kang's death. Not this time, Raiden, Liu sneered. This time, you will be the one who dies. Chronica's new era shall be won without your meddling. It ends here, with you death. Hey. The chuckle surprised everyone present, Chronica included. Ha. Even more shocking was that the laughter was coming from Raiden himself. Everything that Black Sky has envisioned has come to pass, Raiden chuckled. I've known that Chronica would return. Did you really think that I, nor the others would not have a contingency plan in place for this event? Have you wondered why Johnny Cage and my chosen are not here? They are cowards, Raiden, Katana sneered. They have abandoned you in your greatest time of need. Far from it, Raiden cackled. When and if you find them, they will be ready for you. All of you. He turned to Chronica. How do you like my design for your timeline, Chronica? Now, he was laughing. Stop laughing, Liu threatened. Raiden ignored him. Johnny Cage, Hanzo Hasashi, Kuei Liang, Jackson Briggs, Sonya Blade, you don't get it, Do you? Any hope for mercy from them will be gone. Not even Chronica nor Shinnok can save you from their vengeance. Chronica now looked worried. Shinnok and Cetrion exchanged concerned looks. The revenants were becoming even more angrier. Out of desperation comes improvisation, Raiden continued. With the blessings and machinations of Lord Nao Amukar. I said stop laughing. Lu bellowed as he backhanded Raiden with a flame-shrouded fist. Raiden's laughter died to a chuckle. You don't get it, do you, Liu Kang? He sneered. Raiden never sneered. None of you did. I gave Johnny and the others what they need to fight back when the time comes. Liu trembled. Raiden glared at his former champion. My only regret is not being there to see your inevitable defeat. Do you understand me, Liu Kang? You lose. You just don't realize it yet. Chronica had fed you nothing but lies. But it doesn't matter. You may have killed me and Fujin, but we and the Elder Gods have laid the seeds for your destruction. To put it bluntly, I win. Raiden's head exploded in a violent geyser of blood, brains and gore. The demonically charged dragon flare had demolished Raiden's head, the intense flame cauterizing the bloody stump. So Raiden had a contingency plan in place, Cetrion said as Enenra and Kabul dragged Raiden's corpse away. It explains the reason as to why the black and red dragons were unable to track Johnny Cage and the others down. Their souls are gone. Everyone turned to Shinnok. Raiden knew of the fate that befell himself and Fujin, and prepared for it accordingly, Shinnok growled. Their souls have been obliterated upon death. I cannot claim them. We will find Raiden's champions, Liu Kang, Chronica assured him. Once they are dealt with, the new era shall commence. Liu could only nod as Raiden's corpse was taken away. Killing Raiden did not bring him any satisfaction, surprisingly. Instead, Liu felt empty. That emptiness was soon replaced with a different feeling. This one, being that of dread. The Elder Gods knew about what was to come, Cetrion said. The Elder Gods are no longer Mother's concern, Shinnok said with a wave of his hand. You saw to that yourself. It's not over yet, Lord Shinnok, Liu said. Raiden's remnants still remain. We will find them, Liu Kang, Cetrion said. Only then will you be allowed to mete out your justice. Liu looked at the fallen goddess. Justice. No. Vengeance, Lady Cetrion.